wounds, and so it's really important to me as a man on the spiritual path to own and accept those shadow parts of me, those parts of me that I don't like and that I want to deny and that I want to hide from. And when I turn towards, so it's kind of like by turning toward my own shadow, I'm also turning toward my light at the same time, if that makes any sense. So that's really important to me, personally and as a healer. I think the challenges that we have in the world right now are, in some part, a result of people looking outside instead of inside for whatever, for whatever it is, or blaming other people, other countries, other religions, blaming other people for our problems instead of looking inside ourselves. So I have this hanging on my wall in my office, and I'm looking at right now. It says, from Carl Jung, it says, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." So I feel really, really passionate about helping this world wake up. And waking up, it's not always a pleasant experience, but it can lead to so much light.
Yeah. So, and Martin, tell me if I'm wrong here, but how I interpret that is, so if I was to talk about shadow things, my shadow self, or things that my shadow self, if I was to talk about that, I would say things in my life that I don't like, maybe even character traits, maybe even, and maybe this will end up being too long of a conversation, I'm not sure. But is that how you're talking about shadows, like our shadow self? Are you talking something different, that part of us that we don't like, or
so
piece of shame?
Yes. So Carl Jung said our shadow is they're the parts of us that we hide, deny, and repress, and we hide them from ourselves. So when I was a boy, I had some physical abuse from my mother, and I was a sensitive little boy, and so I like everybody, I came into this life a whole and perfect being, and then the world started having its effect on me, including my parents. God bless them; they're imperfect beings, like all other parents. And in order to survive, I had to hide some parts of myself. I had to tuck some parts of myself away in my psyche, and then so it's kind of like splitting off parts of me. And then I grew up, and those split off parts, and until they're welcomed into the fold, they're going to be operating out of the shadow and impacting our lives in certain ways. And so when it's in my life, as I've turned toward welcoming all the parts of me that I don't even want to look at myself. When I turn toward those parts and welcome them, there's so much they add to my light. So that's what I mean by turning towards the shadow. It brightens my light, and it brightens my ability to see other people's light.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. And I love how it all happens. I had this experience last week when I was driving to the clinic, and boom, this time in my life popped into my head that I'm not proud of that time, and absolutely something that just keeps shoving it down, pretend it never happened, put it away, close the door, you never have to look at this. And it occurred to me, but it's taken me years to get to that place, to be able to say, you know what? I have no shame, absolutely no shame for that thing that happened. Zero shame. I have so much pride and I don't know because I was saying it in my car driving, as I was driving, I was talking out loud. So pride was one of them. and empowerment to know that I did that thing so I wouldn't surrender and go back to a life that I knew was not fulfilling to me. So would I make that same choice now, knowing what I know now? Absolutely not. I would make a much more empowering choice. But to be able to say that thing no longer has a hold on me, I'm proud of it. I'm proud because it allowed me to stand in my own power and recognize I didn't settle for something that was not going to serve me. And man, was that powerful. And I guess I never saw that as, because I never speak that way, like a shadow self. That's just not been part of my language. So yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that. Because we all have that stuff.
Yes, we do. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And well, that's a beautiful experience. And, like I said, there's, when we integrate all parts of ourselves, we are reclaiming so much of our own power.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's what happened.
Oh, I'm sorry, Martin, go ahead.
It sounds like that's what happened with you.
Yes, and I was going to say, and that kind of empowering. So the listeners understand that it's not an overbearing, I will force it on you for it to happen. It is the most gentle, powerful thing that could ever happen. It's almost like that gentle lightning that happens where it's like it never makes contact with the ground. It just kind of stays up in the clouds. And it's just beautiful. But you know that if you were able to reach your hand up there into the clouds, there's electricity there, but it's just not coming down with that huge thunderbolt that follows it. That's how that feels to me. It's so empowering and so freeing all at the same time. So,
So many years ago, I was working with a client, and we were doing psycho-spiritual healing, and she had been in a 25-year marriage, and it was not a happy marriage, and she really struggled with loneliness. But it wasn't loneliness that she struggled with. It was repressing and running from her loneliness. She was really afraid to feel how lonely she was. And I remember this vividly. We were sitting in my office, and we'd been working together for a few months, and she came to this, suddenly she had this moment of realization where she finally stopped and allowed herself to feel loneliness. And I remember this look on her face got really bright, and she said, "Oh, that's loneliness. That's all it is. Well, it's no big deal. I can handle that." And it shifted her life. So the problem wasn't the loneliness. The problem was her, her running from the loneliness, her fear of the loneliness. What would it mean for her life? Can I bear it? Is it, what does it mean? So, that's a good example of what we're talking about to me.
Wow, I love that. Right. It's when all of a sudden we face it and it's just like, oh, that's it? Really? Wow.
Yeah, right.
My God, that's awesome. Awesome. So Martin, it's like a time warp when we're doing these podcasts, because 30 minutes is already like, bink, gonna be done. So I want to know, I have like a list of questions that I want to ask you. I think I've asked you 3. And so I'm wondering if you would be willing to come back next week so we can continue this conversation and dive a little bit deeper into this spiritual world. I love it. There's so much to talk about. I would love for you to come back. Willing.
Absolutely. I would be honored.
Fabulous. So for the listeners, there's without a doubt, you gleaned all kinds of gold nuggets from this. And Martin, if you want to contact Martin, he is a coach and a psycho-spiritual healer. And just lost your bio, Martin. Martin does some great work with people. So if you need to contact him or you would like to contact him, if you could send me an email, and then I will put you in contact with Martin, and that will also be on the show notes. So you don't have to worry if you're like, oh, I forgot how to get in contact with Martin. But I can get in contact for you with Martin, and then he will be able to reach out to you. So don't worry about that. And for the listeners, thank you so much for being here with us today. And for Martin, my dear friend, you are a wise and wonderful man, and I'm grateful to have you on the show with me, and I'm more grateful to call you my friend and my partner in believing.
Yes. Thank you. The feeling is definitely mutual.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Until next week, have a beautiful week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Please go to nadahogan.com for show notes and other information you can use right away. If you like what you heard here, please subscribe to our show, and don't forget to rate and review right there on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your shows. And don't forget to tell your friends about it. We'll see you next week.